Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mean Green Gridiron podcast. I'm your host Billy Sear, and I'm joined once again by Carter. Carter, how's it going?
It's going good. I missed the creative intros that kicked off the season. I feel like we've been so focused on all the winning.
Yeah,
You just lost the luster of giving me a nice little joke intro.
I also I do I do taxes, so this time of year it kind of gets busy with like the deadlines and stuff. But yeah, no, I gotta look. Luckily, next week is the deadline for that, so hopefully that'll allow the creative juices to get flowing a little bit. I'll let you know what Carter's been up to in his spare time of directing movies or producing albums, things like that. The other stuff that's a lot more interesting in
I've
his
been
life
I've been a busy
and
bee.
helping me.
Lost the track.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, like Carter said, lots of winning.
Yes.
We didn't have an episode last week, but obviously we would have been recapping the South Alabama win, and not the prettiest of wins, but still staying in the win column 5-0. What were your thoughts on that performance?
For just the whole South Alabama game or South Bama game as a whole, you mean?
Yeah,
Uh, I went into the game. I think I said it on the podcast. I may have put it in a group chat or our text or something, but I think I said it on the pod. I really wanted this game to be a not a competitive like close battle, but just something where we coming into the game we had seen two overtime wins and two blowouts. It
right.
kind of like the two is like polar opposites in terms of game results you can get. So I was kind of hoping this game would be just a little bit closer. It kind of went script wise about as well as I could have hoped. The defense gave up that touchdown, 75-yard drive to open the game, and looked a little bit slow to start out, and then got settled in and uh, did pretty good on third downs and hung in there. And the offense, didn't have the best game. They really never found rhythm outside of Caleb Hawkins just trucking through people, which is what he has done all year. And it's just been a really fun last three games of him breaking out as debatably more of a star than Mestamaker. I mean, he's like been the breakout guy this year.
Yeah,
Um, so that was fun seeing him get to work. And yeah, I mean, as a whole, I don't think it was our best game, but um, I never really felt like it was in doubt. It just felt like a game we needed to, you know, not play down to South Alabama, but I think they needed a little bit of a test in terms of like how to manage a game without going to overtime and with without blowing the other team out. Like, how do you just win a normal game? How do you control a game for the most part where not everything goes your way and you're not like head to shoulders the better team on the field? You know what I mean? So
yeah.
um, it was a little frustrating at points. Some things to clean up, but I think they were also probably a little bit tired from Army. That's kind of been the consensus. Is like, yeah, it's a good time for a bye week. So again, I never felt like the game was in jeopardy, but uh, didn't really feel like a super exciting game that warranted a huge recap episode, anyways. So we can just kind of tie it into the USF talk this week. But yeah, it's a good win. I'm happy with the result, and there was enough positive to take away from where, like, even though everything wasn't completely to the highest of what we've expected out of this team this year, it was still a good game and competitive and fun, and it never felt like we were in real danger of losing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I think one thing that I took away from the game is it felt like to me we got out game planned. I thought that they were I think that they were very much ready for our offense. I think that they were it seemed like at least in coverage they really seemed to be sitting on our route concepts. Like they knew what we were trying to run and they were ready for it. They were well disciplined defensively. They weren't letting our receivers spring free wide open like we've seen a lot in the first four games where receivers are
yeah,
just wide ass open and Messmaker hits them in stride, and we've got a big chunk play. There wasn't a lot of that, especially kind of in the second quarter. They started locking in. I want to say Messmaker started 5 of 5, and then the next time I saw he was something like 7 out of 18 or so. There was just a big stretch there where we were really having trouble completing passes. And
Sure.
I think last week after the Army win, or the last podcast, I talked about Hawkins, where I said, to me, he kind of raises the ceiling of what this offense can be, because, originally we knew we had a good offense. We knew we had good players, across the board, good O-line, good skill players, but we didn't kind of account for this level of running back in our offense.
Right.
We knew we had good running backs who could get you yards, put the ball in the end zone, in the red zone. But Hawkins, the performance that he had, over 200 yards, 3 more touchdowns, had the long screen pass on a 3rd and long that was just kind of like a, hey, let's see what we can get here, and ends up taking it, 70 yards or whatever for a touchdown. Like that ability that he showed is kind of what I was talking about, as far as like, this is what raises the ceiling of what this offense can be, because you don't just have a guy who gets you the yards and who, runs for a gain that's blocked up well. Like, he is making things out of nothing. He's making, touchdowns out of plays that other running backs would maybe just get you good chunk plays. Like, he is really taking things to the next level. And it's pretty insane to see so early on in his career. Even for a freshman, sometimes when they do have breakout freshman years, it's usually more in the back half of the second half of the season, where
Right.
he's already doing the first half. Like, that's well ahead of script. But this is a game where we kind of needed it. Like you said, I mean, we were in control, but it was South Alabama was just hanging in there, probably more than I think a lot of us fans were comfortable with. And Hawkins is the one who basically kind of put the game on his back and put us over the edge there. But no, I agree. Messamaker had, probably one of his worst games so far this year. I think that, like I said, I think South Alabama really game planned for us well. I think they were sitting on they knew what we were going to try and do. And I think that, they, like I said, I frankly just think they out game planned us. And, we'll talk about it more here in a little bit, but going to South Florida, I mean, I want us to kind of play more like South Alabama did, where it felt like they were the aggressors. It felt like they were doing what they wanted to do, which was run the ball. It felt like they were better game plan for us than we were for them. And like I said, it just seemed like they were taking it to us. They got the ball first drive, went down the field and scored. Those kind of things are what you want to be doing. You want to be the one who looks like you spent the extra time game planning for the team. You want to be the one who's playing aggressively and whose team looks like they want it more.
Sure.
And yeah, like I said, it felt like they did that to us, and that's what I hope to see this week out of South Florida. Defensively, we did really good on 3rd down. Only allowed 7 of 19. They went for quite a few 4th downs, partly because they were playing from behind. And I think, like I said, overall, I think the defense did well. The one thing is I think they just let South Alabama run the ball on us a little too much, for too much success. 204 yards on 45 rushing attempts, nothing crazy, but again, like, I think that they did have success there. And I said this last time again, but look, I think that's the blueprint. Through our first 5 games, teams have had success being physical against us and running the ball against us. And so I think that's something to be mindful of going to South Florida. Is they're going to try and do the same thing. They're going to run the ball. They've got a host of running backs. They've obviously got a quarterback who's going to run the ball well. But defensively, can you get some negative plays when the other team's trying to run the ball? Can you get some tackles for loss or tackles for no gain? Get them into 2nd and 10, 2nd and 11. That is going to be really key going forward. And I think they didn't do a good enough job against South Alabama of that. But came out with the win. Is there anything else you want to kind of touch on about the South Alabama game?
I would just say I think maybe you could chalk the running game that we allowed up a little bit to the defensive line having to play without June for the first time this year. He's definitely a difference maker in terms of being back there for the rush defense, and he's a tangible loss. So
Especially after the season now, we can say in the press conference.
I don't want to leak anything, but we did know last week, but we didn't let anything slip. I'm proud of us. We knew ahead of time, but we didn't tell anybody, So good on us.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
about
I think,
us. Sorry,
yeah, that's
June.
right. Yeah, no, I think, I would agree to an extent that I think they definitely came a little bit more game planned and game prepped. I think that it was a nice, I don't want to say change of pace, but it was like, it felt like we out talented them, even though we got
Yeah.
out game planned, which is not something we're used to with North
Right.
Texas. Like that's definitely not a normal thing when we win games. Is like, oh, we were not the better prepared team, but we were just better than them,
Yeah, for
And
sure.
no disrespect to South Bama, but I don't think this is a very good South Alabama team this year. Having said that, you're going up against teams like South Florida and even UTSA, who's having a down year. They still got talent, and Navy. These teams coming up. You can't always do that. You have to
Right.
out game plan some of these teams, and these guys have really good coaches. I mean, even UTSA, I know they're having a bad year, but like Jeff Traylor has come prepared against us because he's a good
Yeah.
football coach. The Alex, I can never pronounce his last name correctly for South Florida.
Galesh.
Is it Golesh?
Yeah, that's how I heard Eric Morris pronounce it. Galesh.
Golesh. Okay, he's a really good game planner. Great in-game coach.
Yeah.
So, we're coming up against some teams where nothing against Eric Morris, but this is a big chance for him to prove himself against really really good coaching competition. I do think our talent is good enough to keep us in these games. It is nice kind of having the big games on our schedule and not seeing us as like 10-point dogs. It's like, oh yeah, even though like the bettors and most people believe in us to hang in this game, aside from USF fans on Twitter. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm not gonna read too much into the game. It was an 11 a.m. game against a non-conference opponent after a very weird and dinky Army game. There was no crowd. We don't really have to talk about it. It's probably been discussed ad nauseum on Twitter and the boards and everything, but the crowd was just not existent. There was no crowd. So it felt more like two teams going through the motions more than anything. It didn't really feel like a big game in terms of running your system to efficiency. So I don't think that the things that we didn't maybe do so well against South Alabama are going to linger. One other thing I wanted to mention when talking about Caleb Hawkins is that I'm glad that his production has not come at the expense of the other running backs. I know Jaden Bex probably hasn't had the season he's wanted to, and Sibley's missed a couple games.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like the entire running back core has done their job and been really productive. And they're not perfect, but as a whole stable, they're really scary. And so I think when you see freshmen kind of emerge like Caleb has this year, sometimes it's at the expense of like, oh, okay, well, somebody else is underperforming. And that's not really the case. I mean, McGill still had a great year. Sibley, when he's played, has been awesome. And Jaden Bex, we've talked about before. I think Jaden Bex is going to be a really good running back. I think he's still just coming into himself as an athlete. I still think he has just some stuff to clean up, but the talent is there. So top to bottom, very exciting stuff from the running back core. I thought the offensive line was good. I think Drew's worst game, agreed. I don't think it was his best game by far, but a lot of that was because the receivers couldn't make any separation against South Alabama's DB, which, by the way, their secondary is pretty good. Yeah, I said that coming into the game. I was a little bit worried about their pass defense. They actually do have a pretty solid secondary. So not reading into it too much. I think it was just, outlier game right before a bye against a 1-3 team. You did what you needed to do, got the win. You won by 2 scores. Just move on. Take the bye week. This is I don't want to say they were looking ahead, but this is their game they're looking for. So on Friday night. So happy with the results. Things to clean up as always, but good win.
Yeah. And with that, we'll go into the aforementioned Friday night game here against South Florida. I do want to lead with the fans because right now, as of Wednesday night, it looks like we're going to have a great crowd. And, you talked about it. Look, there's not much to say that hasn't already been said about the crowd on Saturday, on the South Alabama game. But I just, unfortunately, we're not where we need to be as a program, just as a current team, yes, we are. But as a program, we just haven't had the sustained success to have a good crowd. I think
Sure.
on an 11 a.m. game. I mean, look, I was talking to somebody else about this who doesn't even live in Texas, and they're like, "Yeah, it's like fall weekends are just so busy. Like, there's just so much
Sure.
going on. Whether it's things that you have to be doing, things that you would like to do, family stuff. I don't know. For me, we've got youth sports on Saturday mornings, every Saturday morning. There's, I know a lot of people have, volunteer stuff and church events or whatever. There's just so much. Saturday mornings are hard, and this isn't me making excuses. It's just me kind of being realistic about look where we are right now. I think it's hard for us to draw, and I think a lot of our diehard fans are kind of in that, that 40s, 30s age range where it's people who have busy adult lives, and
Yeah.
there's not a ton of wiggle room on those Saturday mornings. But hey, you get a Saturday night game, or in this case, a Friday night game, and schedules are opened up a little bit more. So you hope that as you grow as a program and you get more, you get a bigger fan base and more diverse fan base than just the 45-year-old college grad who has a wife and kids and whatnot. I think that allows you to draw better at these kind of inopportune game times like an 11 a.m. kick. But that being said, the initiative from marketing I think has been great. We've seen a lot of marketing for the South Florida game.
Yep.
I bought my tickets today, and that was as slim options available as I've ever seen on on the website. So that was good to see. But yeah, I guess what are your thoughts on kind of the crowd and maybe the factor that they can have in the game, and what you're expecting to see out there on Friday night?
I think first of all, the hype building into the game is just awesome. I'm hearing people at the Ticket and ESPN and CBS talk about it. Like the fact that it's a Friday night game definitely helps, but I mean this game is actually getting a lot of like national attention, which is cool. Like even when we beat Arkansas in 2018, which I would say is the most, I guess, impressive or biggest win or biggest game in UNT's recent history. Aside from like I guess any bowl games or anything, that Arkansas game, that was a team that was terrible. It's one of the worst teams we've ever played. In all honesty, that was one of the worst teams ever. So I mean, good win, but it's not something that we look back on and we're like, yeah, that was like a big statement for the program. This game, this weekend, is getting talked about as like the biggest game in program history, and we're treating it like that. And people can make fun of it. People can poke fun at like the buy one, get one ticket thing or like whatever. I think that all that's dumb because you can't make fun of us for having no fans and having nobody show up to the game. And then when we actually try to incentivize people to come, make fun of that too. Can't do both things. You can make fun of one or the other, but not both.
Right.
But yeah, no, our admin has been awesome. I've been in contact with a lot of people who work within the program, and just everybody's going 110 miles an hour to get this thing done and get us sold out Friday night. So it's really exciting. I don't remember the last time I was this excited for a game. Obviously I hope we win, but even just us looking competitive and kind of leveling with USF in this game is a big deal. I think if we can just impress people on ESPN, just come away with some sort of positive national reception, that's a big deal. Getting to play on these Friday night big games, I think ESPN 2 is what we're on Friday night. Yeah. But I don't remember what the other games are, but we are the best game Friday night by far. I don't remember what it was, but there's not really that much great football on outside of UNT USF Friday. So
the only matchup in the top 25.
That's right. And one of these teams is coming away from this game ranked. I will say that. Might not be USF, but one of these teams is leaving Denton with a ranking in front of their name. So that's really cool. And I obviously hope we win so I can soak it all in Saturday and just enjoy a college football Saturday and be like, yeah, my team's 6-0 and not have to stress about anything or be down. It's such a big deal to have this game here Friday. Really hoping we can get the sellout done tomorrow. And there are major implications for this game. I'm not talking about CFP. I'm not there yet. I want to win this game, and then I'll worry about Charlotte. That's my mindset as a fan. But as far as I'm concerned for this game, this is the most excited I've ever been as a fan. I started caring about the football team in like late 2016. I think the Army Bowl game was the first game I watched as a fan. And then I started going to school here. So it's been about a decade for me. I know it's been longer for a lot of other people, but at least in my fandom, this is the most hyped I've ever been for any UNT football game. And it actually matters. It's not just some, lowly CUSA game. Like, this is a big deal. This is a big game with like national implications and G5 playoff implications. And it's just cool that my team is in the mix. So I'm hoping it goes well. But one thing I did want to add real quick, and then I'll kick it back to you. I've seen a lot of people say how nervous they are for this game, which I think is a good thing. I like that our fan base is not handling this with some sort of like just unbridled arrogance. Like we're not acting like we've been here before. We're enjoying the ride, and I know I'm biased and I can talk up my own fan base, from my corner, but I do really feel like our fans have taken this really seriously, and like the diehards are enjoying it in a way that it should be enjoyed, which is like this is a different team. This is a different vibe, and they deserve our respect, but we're not going to act like we've been here yet. Like, we got to win this one. A lot of fans are nervous about this game, and I like that. It means we should be taking it seriously, and I don't think this game would be taken as seriously if we weren't nervous. So I like how nervous people are. You should be nervous. That's why you yell on third downs. That's why you go to the game and paint your face and go crazy. That's the fun of college football. So I am nervous, but I am excitedly nervous.
Right. Yeah, and look, you look at our schedule and you look at any kind of metrics. I mean, this is the hardest game left on our schedule. So, you win this game and then you start to see things open up for whatever big possibilities you want to kind of eye in on. But like you said, until that happens, like this is, this is the game that matters. And, I think that also when you look at, like you said, the fan base, like it feels like the hype is there, whether it's, on campus or on the internet spheres. Like there's a lot of buzz. We had an Associated Press writer at the press conference on Tuesday asking Eric Morris questions. That was, weird hearing a voice that wasn't, Brett Vito or Miles or one of the NT Daily guys. So, there's definitely some, palpable anticipation for this game. That being said, what I talked about, one other thing, you're talking about, the Arkansas game or kind of things. I know it's been thrown out a lot of like, what are the biggest games in program history? And I think a lot of the kind of quote unquote biggest games in program history are games that became the biggest, like one of the bigger games because we won the game, right? Like because of what happened. Whereas I think there's only one other game, that maybe two other games that I can remember this kind of anticipation going into the game, right? Like before the game happened, not just in hindsight. And unfortunately, one was that Louisiana Tech game in 2018.
Yep.
And then the other one that I can remember is 2013, the Halloween game against Rice. In that game, it was basically for the lead in the I forget what the division was, but in the division for Conference USA, and then beating Rice put that team in the driver's seat to win the division, which then they ended up losing to UTSA and losing out on a chance to go to the conference championship game that year. But again, all that being said, this is a big game because of what the teams have done, not just because of how this game turns out. So I think there's a distinction there. But that being said, like you said, I mean, everything's set up for the stage. I think there's going to be a huge crowd. There's going to be a lot of eyeballs on the game. And now it comes the always tricky part for UNT, capitalizing on all of that. Something that has just eluded us for so long of really making it count. It's like when you finally have people watching you, or you finally have eyeballs on you, and then you disappoint. All of a sudden, you lose those eyeballs. So like it's it's incredibly important for what we do. As for South Florida, the opponent, I mean, looking at their team, they do a lot of things well, but I don't know that they do a ton exceptionally well. They're kind of one of those teams that they've got a good quarterback, they've got a good defense, got a good offense, have some good playmakers, but I don't think they have a part of their team that just stands out as kind of like a dominant football team. Like I said, they're really well-rounded team. I think something that they do well is offensively is scoring in the red zone. They've been a good team there. Defensively, I think they've kind of been they kind of have an outlier game where they played number 5 Miami and lost 49-12. It was mostly close in the first half, but outside of that game, I think that game kind of hurts a lot of their metrics. They beat Boise State 34-7, won in the swamp against Florida 18-16, and then had a couple blowout wins. South Carolina State, FCS opponent, and Charlotte in conference last week. What are kind of some of your early impressions of South Florida as a football team?
I'm gonna go stupid and crazy here. I don't think their resume is as good as people are saying. Okay. That Florida win, they never led, I don't think, or it was at least close. It was very low scoring, and Florida was off to a not great start to the year. I'm not saying it's not an impressive win. Go to the SEC, get a win. Florida beat Texas. Sure. Okay. They won on a walk-off field goal. Boise State has looked okay. They handled App State. They handled Air Force. They got beat pretty bad by Notre Dame. Like, okay, that's another good win. But I am seeing a lot of people kind of use their resume as like, well, they've handled the big boys and UNT is not. And I don't know that I agree with that. Again, Boise State and Florida, 2 great wins, but they got handled pretty easily by Miami. And I'm not trying to discredit those 2 wins with 1 loss to a top 5 team. I'm just saying, Florida's not one of the better teams in the SEC, I don't think. And Boise State's just a decent team. So, that being said, I do respect what they've done this year. Byron Brown is a pretty scary quarterback. Probably the best dual threat guy we'll face all year in terms of running and passing capability, but I certainly don't think he's one of the best passers we're going to face all year. So if we can kind of contain him in the run, I think we have a really good chance in this game. As far as their defense goes, I've watched enough of their games. I think I'm kind of with you. I think they're pretty solid at everything, but not great at one specific thing. I do know their offense turns the ball over a good bit, or at least from what I've seen, it looks like they're a little bit prone to turnovers, which our defense has certainly been able to capitalize on. So I know that's an easy in to say, well, turnovers are going to win this game, but it really is like, it does feel like this game could come down to a turnover or 2. I know the spreads, a lot of the spreads have it as like a 3-pointer or fewer game or spread. Yeah. So it looks like it's going to be a pick 'em basically. Yeah. I don't know how confident I am in saying that, but it definitely does feel like turnovers will play a big part in this game. And Byron Brown is a great quarterback, but he is a guy that you can pick. So definitely would look to keep an eye out for our defensive backs to hopefully read his passing game well and, maybe come away with a pick or 2. But yeah, as far as South Florida goes, I think they are a good team. I think they're worthy of their ranking where they're at right now, but I don't think that what they've done so far implicates that they are a justified favorite coming into this game. I know I'm biased. I know we're a North Texas podcast and we've watched every down of all 5 of our games this year. And a lot of South Florida fans and national fans probably have not. I get that. I get that our wins are not as impressive as South Florida's, but I would just go back to the fact that we handled a Pac-12 team, not a serious conference anymore, but we still handle the Pac-12 team as well as you can handle a football team. Complete dismantling. Winning on the road at Army is not easy. I don't care if they're 1-9 or 9-1. It doesn't matter. Going into West Point and getting a win is a big deal, especially for a team that's given us fits in the recent years. going into Western Michigan, a team that's looked decent at points this year and gutting out an overtime win, something that this team has not done. I mean, contextually speaking, these are really big wins for North Texas. I know they're not probably on paper the most impressive thing, but this team has showed a lot of gut and a lot of composure, not akin to things we're used to seeing from past North Texas teams. I think South Florida is great. I think they do a lot of things really well, but I'm with you. I don't think they're exceptional at any one thing. I think their running game is good, but we can stop it. I think their passing game is fine, but we can stop it.
Yeah.
I don't think they defend the pass or rush well enough that we can't exploit one of them. And that's the thing about this offense is that if you can shut down Mestamaker, well, now you got to deal with Caleb Hawkins,
Right.
And if you shut down Caleb Hawkins, you got to deal with Mackenzie McGill. There's guys all over this offense that can give them fits. They gave up a couple points to Charlotte, which is basically an FCS team. So I'll use that as a little bit of offensive motivation going into this week. I'm like, yeah, we can score on these guys. But yeah, that's my read on South Florida real quick. I don't buy into the resume as much as some people do.
Yeah. No, I think it's fair. I mean, I got to give them credit for the wins, but I think that that's important contextualization of those wins. I think everything said was fair there. One thing I'll say about Byron Brown that really gives me some concern is that you look at last week against Bishop Davenport. I think we struggled at times kind of containing him in the pocket, and I thought there were times where Trey Fields, as a quarterback spy, kind of took some bad angles, and Davenport was able to escape when he really shouldn't have. Byron Brown is kind of like a souped up version of that. I think he's a better passer, he's a better runner, about the same size, just big physical quarterback. And we talk about the transfer portal era of college football. Look, Byron Brown, he's a senior quarterback who's been there for 4 years, which obviously you don't see a ton anymore. And he had a really breakout year a couple years ago, threw for 3,200 yards, 800 yards rushing. So he is an established quarterback at South Florida. So that's that's really interesting going into this game. It's like he knows what to do. He knows how to win on the road. He's not going to be fazed, I don't think, by the crowd, at least not as phased as maybe a younger quarterback would be. But the South Florida team, I think, has been, or I guess the program has kind of been able to sort of raise some eyebrows, I think, with like NIL. Like, was it Trent Dilfer was making comments about saying that there was a few teams in the conference, in the American, who can just outbid the other conference, the rest of the conference for players. And South Florida was one of those teams. Obviously, Memphis was one, and even North Texas was one. He was saying schools in the conference who were offering guys 6-figure deals in the portal. South Florida is one of them. They seem to have a good fan base, at least an active fan base. They seem to have pretty good NIL situation. So I think that they're well positioned to be a good program. Galesh, he was a good coordinator at Tennessee. He's really seemed to kind of get things figured out in South Florida. Byron Brown was injured most of last year, and they still were able to make a bowl game and have a decent season. So again, like this is a good program. This is the kind of program that you want to measure yourself against. I think realistically, we would love to measure ourselves against the Texas Techs and those kind of teams. But as of now, South Florida is one of those teams that you really would like to be able to compete with and go toe to toe with and be on the same level as, because like I said, yeah, they're ranked 24th. They're well positioned for going forward as a G5 program. I think they're about as good a program as you see right now, save for a schools like Memphis. But again, this is the kind of matchup that you want. This is a big game. I know South Florida doesn't have the cachet behind their name that whatever XYZ school that you heard of 30 years ago does, but you get the point. Like this is a good, real deal college football program. So going into it, I think I really want to see the crowd be a factor. Like I said, we did pretty well on third down against South Alabama. That's got to continue. You got to be able to get off the field against these guys, because if you let them keep converting third downs, they're going to hurt you. Like in different ways. They have good running backs. They have Byron Brown who can throw and pass on you. They've got Chaz Nimrod, who's a really explosive receiver. He is a Tennessee transfer. I think he signed with Tennessee back when Galesh was there, and then he's now since come to South Florida, and he's really having a breakout year at receiver. So yeah, this is the kind of team that you really you have to lock in on first and second down, because if you just keep letting them get 5 yards every carry, get into 2nd and 5, 3rd and short, it's going to be a long night. You have to be able to make some good defensive plays early in the down and distance situations. Then offensively, like you said, we've got a deep offense. We've got a good offensive line. I think you want to be able to get a rhythm. I think that's where Mestemaker struggled against South Alabama is, like you said, we weren't getting great separation. They were sitting on a lot of our combination routes. They were well prepared for what we were going to try and do offensively. And so once that happened, that's where you saw Mestemaker start to miss throws. It's one thing when it throws, after, you try and throw the ball a few times and your receiver's not open. Well, then you kind of lose your rhythm. I was watching a NFL game I was watching the Titans play Cam Ward, and he hit one. He was really struggling all game long, and then he hits one just little quick out route screen pass to a receiver, goes for 11 yards, and then all of a sudden he starts heating up. Like, these quarterbacks really thrive off of rhythm, and it's going to be really important that they can, you can establish that with Drew Mestemaker early on. Obviously, he's played really well at home this year. He's played really well everywhere this year. But, getting that rhythm early is going to be huge as far as, just this is not a game that you want to get down early. Like I said, with South Alabama kind of took it to us early. I want to see us be the aggressor this game. I want to see us, get the ball early, go score, make some big stops, get the crowd into the game early. Like, that's what we need. That start to the game can be very indicative of how this one ends up going. But is there anything else that you want to talk about before we maybe go into a little bit more prediction kind of stuff?
No, I totally agree. I think you got to start fast. This crowd's great, but if you get them down 14-0 in the first quarter, it's a quick way to lose them. So absolutely need to come out aggressive. Again, I think, at least from what we've seen, it looks like South Alabama really, really did prep for us well. And it's not that, South Florida won't.
Right.
But, I don't think that we get out coached back-to-back weeks. I think that we had time to clean things up. I really like what I've seen for the most part from Morris and company, and in terms of coaching this year. So I trust our coaches use the bye week to our advantage. And, South Florida played on a Friday last week, which kind of sucks. I wish they'd come off 6 days rest, but and it was Charlotte.
But we had the bye week. So,
Yeah, true. We do have the advantage still, so it's okay. I totally agree. You got to come out aggressive. I really want us to be the first ones on the board. Get points early. Again, this isn't going to be a blowout. This is going to be a dogfight. I think this is really going to be one of the better games in recent years in terms of closeness and competition and drama. And it feels like pretty much everybody has this game coming down to the last possession or two. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because these are two really good teams. So we'll see. I'm very excited, and I agree with everything you said. I think this is, you got to be the team that jumps up and makes a statement this game. You can't roll out there expecting business as usual. And my last point would just be, you mentioned everybody or past UNT teams that have not been able to come through in the clutch, have these big games and big moments and just haven't been able to get it done. This is like, one of these games has to fall our way, right? Like, one of these big games has to go our way. And you talk about like the Rice game 2013. That's a game like fans of this team still talk about. 12 years later, and it was a relatively, I mean, we didn't win the conference that year, so in retrospect, it's a relatively non-consequential Halloween game against Rice. I know Rice was good back then, but it was just a relatively meaningless regular season game, but it was a big game for where our program was at the time, and people still talk about that game. This has the potential to be a game that people talk about for a long time, and it's a huge opportunity for this program. And again, obviously winning is paramount. I really want to win this game. I think this team deserves to win a game like this. Morris talked all week about how they've earned the right to play in this game. I couldn't agree more. They have earned the right to play in a big game like this, but they've earned the right to win one.
Mm-hmm.
The defense has really been impressive all year. The offensive line's been great. Mestemaker's been great. The running back core has been great. Everybody's done their jobs well enough to get to where we're at. And there hasn't been a time this year where I felt like, oh no, it's same old North Texas. Like, here comes what I expect. And for the most part, that's not to say there haven't been, obstacles in the road and hiccups, but for the most part, they've been great on all three phases. And, you can talk about some kicking issues. You can talk about, maybe blowing some leads here and there, or, maybe getting to overtime when we shouldn't, whatever. This team deserves to be in this game, and I think they deserve to win it. And if they come out and play like they deserve to win it, I think they will. So, really, really big game. I hope we capitalize. I think even playing close in this game on ESPN with a lot of people watching, just earning some respect is a big deal. But I want to win. I want to win this game. So, yes, that's my final nuggets on this game. I'll be out there tailgating all day. If you want to come say hi to me. I think the environment's going to be awesome. I really cannot overstate how excited I am for this game. I'm really, really excited.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I'll go my score prediction. I'm going to say 35-31 good guys. I think, I was kind of leaning towards South Florida, but I really think that the fans are going to make a difference. I know that's foreign talk for North Texas, but I really think that the environment is going to play into things, and I'm going to give us a slight edge there.
I think, any past year and things are just kind of going kind of okay. We're kind of liking where the team's at. I could realistically just predict a loss or just say, we might win. We might look good, but we'll see. But this has been a year where the unexpected has happened. We're not here because things are going as planned, right? This is the unexpected. This is the new North Texas. This is the real new Denton, as Seth Luttrell would say. So I think that in a year of the unexpected, where we're just enjoying the magic and along for the ride, I can't pick against the team. I do think that we are the more talented team top to bottom. I do think that momentum is on our side with it being a big home game. And I don't know. But there's a small part of my soul telling me to pick against us. And then that, we've been hurt a lot and it's predictable, but I'm riding with the magic. I'm going to go. What I'll do is, to be a little bit against the grain, I will say we win I'll say we win 42-20. I'll say it's a 22-point win. Everybody else has this as like a field goal game. I'm going against the grain. Give me North Texas 42, South Florida 20. We win.
And I think I can speak for both of us when I say we would take this win any way we could get it. So
that's right. Absolutely, that's right. I will take a 2-0 win. Just win, baby.
Well, yeah, I will say you were calling for more of a test last week against South Alabama than most people. So hopefully you can continue that trend of going against.
We passed the test. I wanted one test. We passed it. Now let's succeed with flying colors, please.
Right. Yeah, let's keep the stress level low. But
yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again for listening, and hope everyone listening is going to the game, or at least has a good setup to watch and whatnot. But thanks for listening this far, and go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.